Funky music.
That'd be an amazing way to intro TDSP.
Oh, we're already gone.
And we're off.
We broke the ice. You know, Allie said she was going to cue me. She got a little distracted. Oh, I didn't see. I thought you were to go, oh my God.
Uncued silent prompts. AJ quietly shaking his head in disapproval. Presented to you by Breckenridge Avalanche Ale.
Breckenridge Avalanche Ale. The best way to celebrate an Avs win and drink away an Avs loss.
That's right.
Something that we'll be talking about both of here today. Also want to remind you to nominate a stellar community member, so literally no one on this panel, but an Avs fan who should get a chance to celebrate at a playoff game this season. Each home game, Breck is hooking... What? You think you're a stellar community member?
I think I'm a community pillar, sir.
I think it's beyond like DNVR Avalanche.
Let alone a stellar community member. Son of a bitch.
Community leader AJ Hafley has
God.
objections.
I mean, I guess if we're talking about the Avs community, I was thinking of like the community at large.
Yeah. Not just DNVR.
Anyways, Breck is hooking up a fan and a
Good
friend
people.
with tickets, gear, and of course, some Avs Amber Ale, of course.
Wow.
And they're going to donate a portion of all proceeds of sales of Avalanche Amber Ale through the playoffs to the Community Fund of Boulder County to benefit Marshall Fire victims. Okay. So today is an interesting one. I guess this is up for debate. AJ is of the belief that this is bad timing for this. I think it's actually perfect timing for me to intro the guests, which is of course AJ.
There are no guests.
Andre.
We're all
Yeah.
regulars.
I would say hosts.
Aww.
My fellow hosts.
My fellow host.
Eric Weedham,
Fair
D-line,
enough, Allie.
a.k.a. Big Market D-line.
Let's go.
Andre Simone, a.k.a.
Little Market.
Professor Dre, the math magician.
Yep, good one.
And, of course, AJ Hafley, a.k.a. the pillar of the community.
Yeah, no doubt.
Okay.
I prefer community pillar.
Community pillar,
Community
AJ
pillar,
Hafley.
Not
AJ.
Like,
pillar
that's your
of the
Chiron.
community.
I
Alright?
like that.
When you get interviewed on the
pompous.
news, it just
Exactly.
says AJ Hafley,
Community pillar.
community pillar.
Exactly.
I'm actually going to start using that in town if I ever have issues. Like, you don't know who I am, which I actually say all the time to everyone. And then I'm going to
Because
say,
no one does know
I'm
who
going
you
to tell community pillar AJ Hafley, my dear friend, about this.
Dude.
You don't know what mistake you just made.
Can you imagine the
It's so
collapse that would take place if that single pillar was taken from the community? The community
Yeah,
itself
it
would
wouldn't be
collapse
good.
on
It would-
itself.
It wouldn't be good.
Why do you think Denver goes to shambles 2 months at a time when I go to Canada?
I'd never thought about it before, but I'm
He's
thinking
not
about it
wrong.
now.
He's not wrong.
Thinking about that right now.
The most believable thing is Andre, like getting mad at someone and saying those things.
Do you know who I am? Yeah.
You
I'm
don't
going to
know
try
who I am.
to say that I'm a community pillar to see if that
Oh.
helps. Like, you can't take me down or else the community will collapse.
Yeah,
I'm the
wouldn't.
blood of the city. No one's
Yeah,
ever said that
exactly.
before.
The blood of the city. That's a great line.
This is just how I'm trying to stay employed.
So
I'm a community pillar.
there
Yeah,
you go.
that's a good one.
So obviously the other night, Nazem Kadri with truly one of the most transcendent playoff performances that I've seen. And I use that word transcendent because it was obviously incredible on the ice. But it went beyond that too with everything that he was dealing with, and so forget the Avs loss last night. Like right after that game, it was okay. Let's talk about that and some of the other great playoff performances in history. And I think what makes the Kadri performance so unique is that it was all the outside stuff that was leaning up against it. And when you go through these and you start looking at them, it's like, okay, well, that was in a really big game and it was an incredible performance. And, I think the Jamal Murray stuff is the one that's comparable to this because of, just what was going on in the world at the time. But even that is a little bit different just because all of this was directly at
It was
Kadri.
about Nazem Kadri.
Yep.
Because if we're being honest about it, the incident with Jordan Binnington, the run-in, that play, the controversial play that kind of kicked everything off, if it's not Nazem Kadri involved in it, the city of St. Louis does not react the way that it did.
Yeah, 100%.
If it's, I've said to multiple people, if it's JT Compher that's involved in that play, there isn't suddenly a run on, people aren't freaking out about gingers the next day. They're not talking about it.
Yep.
They're just moving on with their lives. Like, I can't believe he got hurt. And of course, you're always going to have, like, he did it on purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Like, when Ryan Johansson got his stick stuck in Kemper's mask, there were idiots out there who were like, this was super intentional.
I didn't say that. I said once his stick got in there, I felt like he didn't make as much of an effort to get it out of there as
He
I
didn't
would have
even
liked
know
to
it
see.
was in there, man.
Upon further review, also hearing his quotes about it, I think I was wrong and you're right. But you're right. Like,
There's always going to be those people, but those whole thing started. All the fireworks really started because it was Kadri specifically.
Yep.
Yeah.
His playoff history.
Yep.
Everything else that everything kind of combined to make it controversial because it was him.
yep.
Well, and the coach's quote, that kind of sparks
and
it.
that's
is-
what I was gonna say. Is I feel like the
Reputation.
Blues
Yeah.
falsely used this as a rallying cry, a rallying point, and maybe they did, maybe they didn't realize what that was going to result in.
Yep.
But
Well, they absolutely didn't.
Yeah,
Otherwise,
that's for
they
sure.
certainly would not have done that.
no, I don't mean what he was going to do. I
in,
mean what
like,
their fans
hindsight.
were going to do.
Oh, I mean,
by riling them up in that way. Like, Berube knew exactly what he was doing by pulling the reputation bullshit. And the other players knew what they were doing too. It's like they were trying to conjure up some sort of thing that would motivate them. They didn't realize what it was going to do for Kadri.
it's always easier to have an axe to grind in the postseason,
Yeah.
and the
Yeah.
best of 7, and
Yeah.
blah blah blah.
Well, there's also
Especially
no
if the
immediate
underdog,
reaction. Like, after the hit happens, they play 2 periods of hockey.
Right.
And the Blues
Well,
do
like,
they
nothing
didn't make
about
any
it.
There was
runs.
no
Yeah.
there was no penalty called.
No
Nobody
suspension, no fine.
did anything.
Right. It's that they lose the game, so
It
then
was-
they need something
Then
to
they
ramp them
lost
back
the
up.
game,
Yeah.
and then it was like, he's a piece of shit. And
Right.
it was like, you guys
Right.
had two. It was like 6 minutes into the first period. You had almost a
Yeah,
whole
exactly.
game
Exactly.
to do something about it, and you guys sat around and played a hockey game. You guys managed to just play a hockey game, and then you lose, and you're bitter, and you're mad, and then the news comes out that he's actually hurt,
Right.
and won't be that around for the rest of the series. He throws the water bottle at Naz during the post game interview, which people seem split between that's hilarious and what.
I mean, it just shows how soft he is.
It's
a pattern
yeah.
with him flinging his stick in
Yeah.
Kadri's face
Yeah.
from like 6 feet away.
Well, and this is like the super tough guy goalie who always tries to
Mix
get
it
into
up, yeah.
get into fights with people when there are dudes in between.
Yep.
And then when because like he earlier in the series he even skated over at an Av and was like,
talking.
yeah. Was like, oh, do you want to? Because when Nichushkin ran into him in game 2, that put them on a 5-on-3. He skated over to the blue line and was like getting tough with them, and it was like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's nothing less tough than going at someone when you're essentially wearing a suit of armor.
right.
Like every part of you is covered. You're like, what? What's
And,
up? It's like
and knowing that in no way
Yeah.
is anybody in that building going to let you fight
Right,
that guy,
right.
Yes.
even if that, because if that guy goes over and skates over and fights Jordan Binnington, like he
Oh.
could just be like, he attacked me.
Right. Yeah,
Total
it
nonsense.
starts a riot on
Absolute
the
nonsense.
ice.
It's like guys that get in fist fights in the NFL when they're both wearing helmets.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
at least
those are
at
pretty
least
real.
those dudes start throwing them. Jordan Binnington has yet to actually do that. He does everything right up to the line of actually getting into it with somebody. He's the ultimate hold me back, bro guy.
Oh,
Also, I didn't realize how much I hated him. Like, when you see goalies, you don't even know what they look like. Then when they showed him in the box, I was
Yeah.
like, oh, wow, really punchable face.
Yeah,
No.
and
I want to fight you right now.
looks
Also,
like a Minecraft character.
was it
yes.
at all discussed that, like, it looks like they might have been doing some sketchy shit up in that suite?
What?
No.
That was my
did you
first
guys
reaction.
hit that on the watch along?
sketching the
No.
game?
Like, I saw him, like, look down at his hands a little bit. I was like, what's he got in those hands?
Probably like a corn dog. You're
I'm
like,
not
what's
throwing around
happening?
accusations.
Is
I'm
that
just
the
saying.
new-
I was curious if anyone else was like, what are they
Can you
doing in
imagine
there?
that your goalie goes out and then he's pictured in the building, just like popping Quaaludes or something?
That's what
I kind of wish RK had made this the surprise topic of this
1988.
TDSP. Like we had
An
prepared another
investigation.
topic, and then we came on here and now started breaking down sketchy footage.
It's a
of,
Zapruder film. I just learned what that
the
is.
Zapruder film.
What else is there in Denver sports right now than what Jordan Binnington was doing in the business? I'm with you on this, by the way. We have no evidence, but I'm sure there was something illegal. Positive.
100%. Okay. One thing
Binnington guys.
we haven't even gotten into the actual performance from Kadri yet. So AJ,
Yeah, I
Walk
mean,
us through
like they needed something, right? You're in game 4 and
Yeah.
you're up 2-1 and everybody
down 1-0.
everybody is like, you know, every time he touches the puck, he's getting booed. It's been a whole thing. He spent the last 48 hours getting death threats, and people inundated. Like, people weren't even messaging his Instagram; they were messaging his cat. The cat Instagram that his wife
Jazzy.
has set up for him.
And their foundation.
Like,
Yeah.
are you kidding me with this? And like, she puts them all on blast eventually.
By the way, normalize that.
Yeah.
Normalize screenshotting
Yes.
idiots,
Yes.
racist bigots in your DMs and posting their
100%.
whole ass account on the
Yep.
internet.
Yeah.
Yeah,
totally.
I had there was a Blues fan that's been sending me things that Z wants me to post and put that guy on blast, and I just won't do it.
We're not going to normalize. I thought we just said we were going to
Yeah, we
normalize.
just agreed to normalize.
I'm all about. I'm not gonna.
Whatever.
Yeah, we
AJ,
don't get
will
into
you
this.
fix your
but-
mic a little?
personal choice, but I say
Thank
normal
you.
like athletes. Just put these people on blast. They deserve to like.
Is
get
there
fired.
anything that looks worse than the guy who, with his face? Like, you're looking at all of the screenshots, message. There's a guy with his face that he has sent to the Nazem Kadri. You know what I'm talking? It's like,
Oh
I thought
yeah.
that was
it
a
just stands out. You're
video.
like, bro, what is wrong?
Anyways, back to the game.
Yeah, so he's been getting all this stuff. The police presence is increased at the team hotel. It's hanging outside of his room. They can't go anywhere. Like, they get to the building and the police are like escorting the team into it, and because he
Yeah.
he was inundated with so many. It wasn't just the 5 screenshots that Ashley released. Like, ridiculous, right? So he's been going through an emotional ringer. Gets onto the ice, which any athlete will ever tell you, like, that's okay. That's the reprieve from all the nonsense. Now I can just play a game. I can just play and whatever, and it brings out the very, very, very best in him. He has a 4-point night. He has a hat trick, including the absolute dagger in the third period that makes it 5-3. Where it's like,
out, Bo.
oh man, they are about to go up 3-1.
Or no, that was the short side one.
Yeah, they are about to go up 3-1 in the series and sweep in St. Louis.
Yeah.
And it's Kadri. Like, it's everybody lost their mind about, oh, he's a scumbag and he's this and that, and like, his character has been like publicly dissected for 48 hours. His family came under fire. He came under fire, but a combination of Islamophobia and racism and death threats, all wrapped up
Holy
into one
Trinity.
neat little bundle here. And goes out and drops a hat trick on that team in that city in front of all those fans that hate him that much. in front of a head coach that threw him under the bus, and then when given an opportunity to just say racism is bad, said no comment. I'm not interested in it. Who then walked that back and said, "Oh, we were aware of threats, but we didn't know it was racism."
Which, like, okay, so threats were cool?
Yeah, so he was cool with the death threats to Nas.
I know, that one.
But the racism was too far. Rich, coming from a guy who was suspended during his playing career for on-ice racism.
Yep.
Cool.
Screw that guy. 100%.
So it was the ultimate middle finger. It was the ultimate, like, this was way bigger than hockey. And in, like, the annals of Denver sports history, this singular performance, a game 4 in round 2, certainly a night that we're all going to remember. But had it just been, again, had JT Compher had that hat trick, we would be like, wow, awesome.
Yeah.
But it was the combination of everything that happened that made it such a special night.
And I think Kadri's reputation does make that a little more special.
It does,
right?
yeah.
Because everything you said, I mean, you framed it perfectly. That would be enough for a human to have to handle and overcome.
Yeah.
On top of this guy's dealing with a career reputation of kind of getting him in massive trouble in the biggest moments when his team needs him the most. And when he's really going to be able to play his style of hockey the most, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of the tragedy of Kadri's career thus far is that when he's able to be that badass, that pain in the ass, he hasn't really been on the ice because some horrible things happened that's got him suspended.
He's made horrible decisions, and he paid prices for those. And this was a person being inundated with the worst of humanity and having it bring out the best in him.
Yeah.
And if that doesn't speak to a person's character,
Oh, I know.
I don't know what else possibly could.
Yeah.
That they threw the kitchen sink of ugliness at him, and he rose above all, and it brought out the very, very best in him, both on the ice and then after the game, where, for those who hate, that was for them.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm a big believer in, like, personal growth, and the thing that kind of hurt or upset me the most about this whole thing is I truly feel like I've seen and witnessed Nazem Kadri's personal growth from his mistakes, and especially this year, it feels like he's come so far and realized, like, I have to change. I cannot keep making these mistakes. And I truly believe him when he says that. And I'm sure he said stuff like that before. But this year it felt really real. And, like, you read the Players Tribune piece, which was obviously so touching. And you're like, this guy really is trying to change. So for this completely accidental thing to happen with absolutely no intent to result in this was like, that is what sucked so much. Is because I just know, like, he probably had a hard time sleeping that night just thinking, like, what if they do suspend me? Like, he knew that he didn't, but, like, that whole thing, and then on top of that, he's getting all this shit, and I thought him going and scoring that hat trick, and not only the for those who hate comment, but him having, like, the maturity to point out, I know it's not everyone in St. Louis. Like, he was just so on his game in that moment, and
that whole game,
like, that even further defined the personal growth of Kadri this year. And so I think in the end, like, it's part of a cool story, but it also diminishes how disgusting what he had to deal with is to, like, make it just, like, a cool story.
Well, and, like, we sort of treat it as, like, this obstacle to get through. But it's not like, oh, well, he scored a hat trick, so, hey, guess what? Racism is over.
We did it, guys.
Yeah, like, it's, it's not it's not like an obstacle you get through.
Right.
One of the perspectives that kind of dominated over the course of the couple of days was that it doesn't just end.
Yep.
It's not like all of a sudden he's never going to get another death threat.
He probably
or
got more
racist
that
remark
night.
or whatever. But we treat it as, like, this, like, triumphant moment.
He
and
scored
like,
the hat trick.
Look, it was great. And in that moment, that response, that it was awesome. It was a memorable night, but it was really just the tip of the iceberg of he's been dealing with this his entire life.
Yep.
He's been going through this, and he's been fighting uphill against, just his combination of his heritage and who he is, and his skin color, and you're talking about a dude that just has beaten those odds consistently in his career.
Yep.
Well,
And it all sort of culminated in that one night, and we all got a great moment out of it, a great night, a great night to remember from it.
And for me, because it's so unique in its nature, I think it's absolutely one that we'll remember forever.
Yeah, this isn't just a great playoff performance. This was a great personal performance. This was man against so many different elements.
Yes.
I mean, the goal after the power play, after he's viciously cowardly attacked,
terrible,
was just amazing.
It was
so great.
Justice
fired up
felt
as
so
I've
real
been.
in that moment.
Who was
It
was
felt great
Perron?
when he scored the first goal. You're like, oh.
I know.
He goes
Who
flying
jumped
down
on
the
his back?
wing, and he scores the short side, and now all of a sudden the game is taking this big turn, and they're up 2-1, and you're like, oh my gosh, wow, this is crazy. And then it just gets better and better and better.
Yeah.
The only way it would have been better is had the defenseman, I think it was Perunovic, not stopped his empty net attempt.
I know.
That
Four.
it would have been a 4-goal game.
Yeah.
Dude, and the other thing was like his reaction after the goals, where it's like how he's just like, ooh.
Yeah.
When-
Dude, the ear cup,
oh,
So
it was
I-
like
it's iconic.
it was
So
so
great,
beautiful.
man.
Like I at home watching, I was like,
I
Me
at
and you,
first
Nas, we're
thought he
together
was
on this.
doing the ear cup. Upon further review, another, diving into the
Zapruder film. Let's go.
into the Zapruder film, I think he was actually going like this, like I'm in your head.
Yeah.
I think he did both.
Okay, well, hell yeah. More of
Because
that.
he absolutely ear cupped, and it was
So epic.
So great.
like
Right.
he
Ear
wanted
cup's
to
the
be the
greatest
villain. He
celebration.
played the villain. They were like, "Look," he was like, "All right, if I'm the bad guy, I'm the bad guy, and I'm gonna be the one to do this to you."
Yep.
And it ruled.
And just to add on to that moment and how I'll remember it is the way that Avs fans responded last night. Like, the picture's up on the screen.
Yeah.
That was so special. And I tweeted it out today. Like, I take like immense pride in the way that our city is viewed, just as like a sports city, as a city, and just the way that people are here. And the people who got there early, brought those signs, stood there, cheered his name, all that stuff, represented all of us so well. And for that, I'm super thankful. And that's part of the memory
And
for
his
me.
reaction during warm-ups,
Yeah.
where he was like, "Yeah."
He's like, I see you guys.
Yeah.
And I think there's a hockey take in here somewhere that I don't even know if this is the place for it, but like, he's a free agent. Like
I talked about this after the show. I said, if you were going to try and build that bridge and say you should come back in free agency, you should take less money to be here, it would start with how well he was supported during this whole incident. Not just by the fans, but the organization went to bat for him. The teammates went to bat for him.
Yep.
Unprompted, Eric Johnson was like, "That's our guy."
And
Yeah.
that's not the reason why anyone did that. But if it ends up being
of course.
but if it ends up being a reason why he says like, man, I love Denver. Like I love
Well,
these
it's-
people. I want to
it's-
stay here.
it's
That's
like-
pretty awesome. It means we did something right.
It's like when you get married and you're building your like list of your boys that you're gonna have be there, right? Like you're like, look, these guys did all these things for me, and it wasn't because they wanted to be
my best man.
exactly. They did it because they did it for the right reasons,
Right.
and that's why they're there.
Yep.
And that's the relationship building. You do things for the right reasons, and you reap the rewards of a mutually beneficial relationship,
Absolutely.
a positive relationship.
Yep.
And right now, Nazem Kadri and the Avalanche are in as good a place as they've ever been with each other.
Right.
Please, I know that there's going to be somebody that watches this and is like, "Oh yeah, after last night, they're in a great place."
I still think they are in a great place.
They are in a great place.
No doubt.
Speaking of great relationships, we have a great relationship with Ivaca TV.
Oh, boy, do
Yeah. Watch the Avs.
Yeah, as
They
I say,
watch our show immediately after
That's
on the
exactly
DNVR
right.
channel.
People could be watching on Ivaca right
people
now.
might be watching this on Ivaca right now. Yeah, as I say,
They
on
definitely are.
on the Broncos
Sweet.
podcast, if you
Talk
or
to
anyone you
us.
know has been affected by billionaire greed, keeping you from being able to watch your favorite teams, do we have the solution for you? It's Ivaca TV, where you can not just watch the Avs, you cannot just watch the Nuggets, you cannot only watch the Colorado Rockies. You can watch DNVR on there, and the best part about that is they're
Rapids,
all
too.
right next to each other in the channel lineup.
Yeah.
That hypes me up. You know, like ESPN, ESPN2 right next to each other.
Great.
Altitude, DNVR,
Let's freaking go.
We're ESPN News, We're
Yeah.
right there.
ESPN Classic.
A
back
Mammoth,
then, ESPN
Rapids. Don't forget those
Yes,
guys.
of course. So-
Okay.
Check out Ivaca TV. It's actually a really great product, and it's cheap. $25 a month plus
Jesus.
$10 for your receiver. But when you use the code DNVR and you go to ivaca.tv/DNVR, you get $10 off your first 3 months, so you won't even have to worry about that receiver. It's an awesome deal. So check out our friends over at Ivaca, and also check out our friends over at DraftKings Sportsbook. Ever heard of them, Andre?
The best sports book in all the land. New users right now. Get in $5 on an NBA money line. Get $1.50. Pretty sweet.
And you don't even have to win your bet.
Thank God for that.
Giving out
Yeah,
participation
yeah.
trophies.
Let's go.
Yeah, especially with how these NBA
Wow.
games are
How
going.
millennial of them.
If you blew it by quarter one and you know it already, it doesn't matter.
Right.
DraftKings will
None
hook
of the
you
NBA
up.
games are even entertaining anymore.
Yeah.
So just bet your money, don't even
Yeah.
watch, and get
It's
$150.
outstanding stuff.
It's just
Do you have a
my
Conn Smythe favorite for us, AJ, on DraftKings Sportsbook?
Yeah, I mean,
Is it
Connor
Vasilevsky at
McDavid,
plus
man.
600?
Oh, get out of here.
Boo!
How's he going to win Conn Smythe from his couch?
Yeah,
good question.
AJ.
It's a great question. I'd
First
love to know.
ever.
That would be amazing.
More like the Couch Smythe trophy.
Nailed it.
Thanks.
Got him.
Got
How about
him.
Connor McDefense?
Oh.
Kale McCarr. That's my pick.
Well, it would help if he would score a goal.
It would help.
It
He's
would.
scored
I
a
know.
lot.
I've been missing him
He hasn't
scoring
scored a goal in the
goals.
series.
Not in this series.
I know.
But how many points does he have in the playoffs?
Well,
Came into this series with 10.
yeah, and I think he's had 2 assists in the series.
Yep,
maybe
so
3.
that's 12, baby.
That is still a lot.
That's a lot.
It's
They could
okay.
call that the Connor McDavid Award in 50 years, the playoff MVP who never made it to the finals. That could be the Connor
wood.
McDavid Award.
Yeah, could be the Kale McCarr.
Do you think
award,
they-
Hey, how dare you?
Unbelievable.
How?
I thought you
Who
liked
is,
the
who is this man?
What kind of
Unbelievable.
community pillar are you?
Get him off the
the
show.
community's in great
Where's
peril.
my friend and
Community
what have
in
you done
shambles.
with him? Yeah, for real. It's happened already.
Sad Talk
Jeez.
USA.
Okay, anyways, DraftKings Sportsbook.
Bossy would be a good one. Yeah.
There you go. I told you. If you want an
Right.
emotional hedge, that's the one.
Yeah.
DraftKings Sportsbook, where you can also get a sign-up bonus up to $1,000 when you use the code DNVR at sign-up. Of course, you must be 21 or older, Colorado only. Bonus comprised of first deposit bonus and first bet match. Each of $500. Deposit bonus requires a 25 Play through restrictions to apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. If you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-522-4700. All right. We talked about Kadri, but we got to talk about some of the other ones. And maybe it'll give us an idea of where it kind of ranks. I don't really want to rank anything just because I think all of these exist on their own, and especially the Kadri one is so different from anything else. But I think it's a great opportunity to relive some of the best playoff moments in history. So, Eric, I'll start with you. Let's go through some of these Nuggets ones.
Oh my God. So
End of list.
Wow.
Kind of is. It's not a great list.
so you just buried the Avs. You just buried the Nuggets. Who's safe on this panel? As far
What
as you're
community
concerned?
do you
Yeah, what-
represent?
which pillar are you looking to prop up?
I
from this
tell you
point
what,
on?
I'm with all the doomers today.
Oh,
Dude, you are
gosh.
doom and or gloom.
we rising up. It's our time.
You
2012
realize
is here, baby.
Does everyone realize
Oh,
that?
man, how
I
terrible.
hate to be the one to tell you this. Hockey very unpredictable.
Oh, is it?
Avs are up.
Shit.
They are up in the series. They played dominant to the point where the Blues are so unbelievably fortunate for this still to be happening. They're gonna get dominated.
I tweeted out last night, Avs are going to be fine, and someone's like, that's what I said after Game 5 against Vegas. I'm like,
Wasn't the
but they
same
were
thing.
down 3-2
And also
after
Vegas-
Game 5 against Vegas.
Right, a little ambitious there.
Yes, and at no point did the Blues look like they were
I like
out
also.
physicaling.
I was wrong in the past. Therefore,
I'm wrong forevermore.
a different person will be wrong in a different situation in
See?
a different setting.
Now we're getting you back.
Like,
Road teams are 4-1
Dude,
in
the
this
the past
series,
does not
so-
impact this
Yeah.
series.
No.
in my opinion.
Past
No.
results do not predict
It's just-
future results.
I mean, it's the best predictor of future results is past, but
Yeah.
yes.
He's
Not in
wrong.
sports.
Or in, you're not wrong. Anywho,
Not in my current narrative that I will not let go of.
All right.
the Nuggets
good with
had
that.
the greatest cluster of amazing playoff performances
Yeah.
in the bubble.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Some will tell you that the bubble
All of
should
them.
not be counted amongst other playoff runs
No.
because of the unique circumstances that all the players found themselves under. I myself maintain, and I argue, that there is a psychological element in those playoffs that will never be experienced again, in that all of the NBA was imprisoned at Disneyland, and they couldn't, they weren't able
God,
to-
that sounds like a
The
90s
way to
comedy.
say
I'm,
it.
I'm telling you, like,
I'm amazed the Wayans brothers didn't do that
listen, like
15
we watched,
years ago.
we watched the erosion of the psyche of Paul George throughout the playoffs. We watched,
Don't we do that every year?
not like this. I'm telling you, like, there's a
Eroding
you see like you
PG-13.
Man,
see
that was
like
down bad.
documentaries about the Stanford prison experiment,
yeah.
and how when put in certain situations, like, human beings change, and there's just psychological pressure that you're not typically under. I mean, people will tell you, like the purists, like George Karl, for example, will tell you going and having to play in front of opposing fan bases, there's nothing more intimidating. It causes, like,
Tell that to
much-
Nazem Kadri.
Tell it to Nazem Kadri.
Yeah.
The point being, these playoffs this year in the NBA are so atrociously terrible.
That's what I was going to say. Play them in the bubble every year if we
Put
can avoid
the
this
NBA
shit.
in the bubble
Be
every
amazing.
year. We saw nothing but iconic performances,
And, like,
night after
dope
night
shot
after
making
night.
and-
The
'Cause it
Denver
was all
Nuggets,
basketball, baby.
It
all
was
basketball,
incredible.
all
No
basketball,
nonsense.
and
Oh.
water slides, as I recall, from seeing on Instagram.
And Mickey Mouse.
And Mickey Mouse, and complaining about, like, the food that you were served, which is much better than
Like
food
some
the
of
rest of us were
some
getting.
of the great like NBA vlogs of all time.
Oh, the
Right.
top vlog material.
Yeah.
It's
in the
amazing
bubble.
we're actually talking about a real moment in history, and this isn't like some bit we're doing
Yeah,
right
it's
now.
true.
Well, he's talking
This
about
is
them being
pretty
imprisoned in
amazing.
Disneyland, and I'm,
Yeah.
I'm like trying to think, like, what was it like for the NHL players imprisoned in that hotel in
Much worse.
Edmonton?
Much
Right.
worse. Yes.
Like-
at least like
Yeah.
at least like the NBA players were imprisoned in a place that was meant to bring joy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Even if it was
Yeah.
bringing psychological
In
horror.
between
Right,
games,
right.
they're all like hanging out.
Yeah.
There's like the what was the
Just wandering
the
by,
Bal-
taking a picture of
the
Donovan
Balkan
Mitchell.
boys.
Yes. Yes.
Spider running into
They're at the pool.
Jamal.
Coach
Yes.
Malone's in the bucket hat.
All the same, like
Yeah,
I
great stuff.
we'll just never see anything like it again. But
No, we won't.
it presented us with incredible, iconic moments. Not only because of where we were in the world, in that we were all also imprisoned at home, looking for absolutely
I was
anything.
here.
We were here. We were getting COVID. We were
weren't.
in the,
No,
but we were like
COVID-free.
all looking for anything, any shred of normalcy.
Yep.
Anything to like remind us that the world that we once knew was still existing and we could return to it at some point. But then piled on top of that, there was unbelievable civil unrest, which seems improbable if you think back. If we were all trapped in our houses, how were we also all out rioting? I don't know how we did this. But there was just just a confluence of events that made what Jamal Murray did in that bubble run just like so unbelievable, and just like will never be matched again. Just from a statistical standpoint,
Yeah.
he literally performed better than prime Michael Jordan. He had two 50-point games within 2 games of each
span.
other.
Yeah.
The Nuggets turned in one of the least inspiring performances I've ever seen in my entire life in Game 3 against the Jazz. I was ready to disavow the team.
I've never seen anything like.
I was ready.
the Nuggets guys after
we were
that
sitting,
game.
or we were sitting here like, do we have to talk about a trade package for Jokic? Like, what are we doing? What is this? Like,
the one I remember is like Jamal Murray for Ben Simmons or something.
dude, we were like Jamal Murray for Patrick Beverly, Jamal Murray for open space on the bench. Like, we got so decimated in Game 3. Rudy Gobert absolutely just owned Nikola Jokic, and then a switch just flipped, and from that point forward, Jamal Murray was so locked in. He was hit, like, if you actually look at the stats during that time, like, he was hitting his 3-point shot at around 50%, which is unheard of,
Yep.
especially in a,
in the playoffs.
It's funny to say the playoffs because I do agree with George Karl in that the fact that you don't have people screaming at you like allows you to focus more, and you're maybe you're not as apt to miss shots because you're not nervous in the same way. All the same, like you're still playing against the
No
top.
respect for the people on the Zoom calls on the TV
I
screen.
mean, I did. Well, did any of you do that? By the way, did
I
any
was
of you
never
attend?
invited to.
I knew somebody that did it, and they were like, I was on a Zoom call with Charles Barkley. It was awesome.
This is like Katie Wingy.
Totally. But I mean, so they somehow get through the Jazz series where he and Donovan Mitchell are just trading blows like we've never seen before.
Yeah,
Donovan Mitchell scoring 60 points, Jamal Murray scoring 50 points in multiple games back to back. There was just and Jamal Murray scoring in like those 360 layups, just highlight after highlight after highlight, like things that will never be forgotten in Nuggets lore. And then to overcome the goddamn Jazz in the most heroic fashion, almost lose it. The ball is 1 inch from going in, and from Mike Conley, they almost win the series. So we're on a razor's edge. Make it to the next round. Immediately go down 1-3 again.
that.
Yeah.
Immediately go back down 1-3, and we're like, whatever. I mean, like that was cool. Round one was
We were
cool.
kind of like jokingly being like, well, they did it once. They can do
Yeah,
it again.
totally, totally. We were like, whatever. And then somehow they
1-3
did.
Nuggets activated.
Somehow they did it again. Just absolutely the exact same switch. Flipped it. I don't know why they turned it off after the first round. They turned it back on.
Right. They should have just kept it on.
Jamal Murray scores 40 points. He scores 50 points. It's like
Well, in all these games too,
It's unreal.
even it's not like they went down 1-3 and then just started mowing teams down. Like they went down 1-3 and then every other game they were down 10 at some point. Like, and then they were like, all right, fine, let's see if we can, like,
that bubble run. I am bulletproof at this point. Nothing can bother me ever. Like I
that
went
was
through
insane.
the full gauntlet of human emotion.
was
I was
insane.
the lowest I've ever been,
after the
the
Jazz.
highest I've ever been, the mediumest I've ever been, all in a row. And we just like the elation that I felt when they beat the when they beat the Jazz, I felt relief. When they beat the Clippers, I
was
felt
just insane.
elation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
It
then
also helped that they'd done so much shit talking when they were up 3-1.
Oh, the Clippers.
Go!
And it's always so easy to
and
be
it's
big
always a
when you're
Morris.
ahead.
It's always a Morris twin.
Yeah, the
Joke
more
around and find out, my friends.
the more I always get
the
themselves
the
in
more I
trouble.
of the story
More I,
is
yeah.
don't
Yeah.
mess around with the Denver Nuggets and Nikola Jokic. But things we will. The most probably iconic moment, which didn't actually come after the best game, was Jamal Murray's interview after Game 5, or was it 6?
Chills, man. I think
This was at the height of the Breonna Taylor. Unfortunately, there's like that portion in time is like divided into different weeks when it was a different person we were outraged about.
Yeah.
Which is,
And he was just so overcome with emotion. He had those sneakers on that were hand painted, and then after giving an interview where he was so emotionally raw and he was holding back tears, then pictured in the ramp leading out to the locker room, just like overcome by emotion, leaning down.
the last
never
thing
be
for
forgotten.
me in that moment is how drained you can just see he is.
Yeah.
He's physically drained
Yes.
because he
Yeah.
just left everything on the court. He's emotionally drained because of everything that's going on. And meanwhile, he's got a camera and a microphone in his face talking to the world.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you can just see how hard it is for him to like conjure up, the words that describe how he's feeling. And like that was so powerful in that moment. It was just watching Jamal be like, I mean, I'm just leaving everything out there. Like he could barely think, barely speak. He was so overcome with emotion. And of course, there's the picture of him afterwards, which
Unbelievable. What I mean,
goosebumps
With
every time.
freedom
Yeah.
right there, too.
with the freedom.
freedom.
up
I mean,
top,
like truly.
I have that sticker on
Truly
my water bottle.
a moment that will never be forgotten. I mean, this is as far as the imagery that represents the Denver Nuggets. It's Dikembe Mutombo holding up the basketball, and it's Jamal Murray kneeling on the ramp outside of that game. And so, I mean, really, like at the end of the day, like the greatest playoff performance was this entire run by Jamal Murray. He just turned in performances like we'll literally never see again,
Yep.
one after the next.
perfectly said. Any other ones that you feel like deserve a
I mean,
moment
Carmelo
in the sun?
Anthony had great playoff moments in the
Hit
more
the buzzer
traditional
beater
sense.
against the Mavericks, but
The
that's more of like
Mavericks.
a
Game
moment,
3.
playoff moment rather than a playoff performance.
Yeah, Nikola Jokic, has
Every game.
That's just it. The thing about
Jokic
Jokic,
against Lillard
yes,
in the game where Lillard just
yeah.
would not let Portland die.
and yes, and
A lot of
Austin
them are
Rivers
losses.
looks at the sky
Jokic's
like, thank
best
God, when he
games, yeah.
finally misses
Yeah.
one shot. But the thing about Nikola Jokic is he's just like a Panzer tank. He just rolls like he's just so dominant
yeah,
every game that it's unfair to him, but it's like hard to have. Like he has one game where he scored I think 43 points against the Spurs in the playoff performance before the bubble, and that was like ridiculous, but they lost.
All his
Right.
best
How
playoff
about
performances statistically they lose. Typically.
Yes,
What
and
was it,
also
55 minutes?
yes, against Portland, the triple overtime where Jokic played all but like
right,
5
right.
minutes in
Oh my gosh.
an hour-long game.
Where he broke the stat counter on NBA.com because it was not programmed for it to
yes.
go to the numbers he played.
Yes, and all
So
in
it
the
said he
face
played
of
like 6 minutes or something.
right, but like all in the face of everyone telling him that he's a fat guy from Serbia that drinks
Yeah.
soda. Like that's who we're talking about. Like this is the guy that's just completely unaffected by everything, just goes about his business.
Even people in Denver were calling him out of shape still at that point.
Right, and you're like, bro, what are you talking about? Like no other NBA player has logged these kind of minutes ever.
Yeah.
Insane.
That's the one that kind of sticks out to me, and of course, the Nuggets lost that one, so it doesn't really count.
That's just it.
But I mean, truly with him, it's like we talked about a David Thompson game.
Yep.
Where he had 37, 6 and 6 to like win in Game 7, send the Nuggets to the Western Conference Finals,
76.
and it's like, oh, so he just had like a standard Jokic game.
No. You're like,
Like-
oh, game 3, cool.
Yeah, like it's kind of hard to like conceptualize. He basically steps on the floor and gives you 30 10 10 ish every time he goes out there in a playoff game.
Yeah. Well, and in the playoffs, it might be more 30, 15, 10.
Yeah, his
That's
his
true,
rebounds
yeah,
always
10
go
is-
up.
Yeah.
10 is shorting him. So, all right. Want to talk a little Broncos here, or should we? And then we'll finish with some of the other Avs ones.
Sure. Obviously, you have the drive, which statistically isn't going to be much. So
Again,
much like
that kinda
kind of
goes
the
into
MVP. Yeah.
The moment,
It's
but
a moment,
but
not a.
it's an extended moment. It's not just like one throw. You know, like
It's a
Tebow to
98-yard
DT is
drive.
definitely a moment.
Yeah.
But that's like a whole drive, but it still I think goes closer to the moment side of things.
Terrell Davis, obviously Super Bowl 32 is way up there. And I think one of the more comparable to some like the Kadri moment, the Jamal Murray moment, it's not social injustice or racism or death threats. He's dealing, though, in the biggest game of his career
Migraines.
with a massive migraine. He has to be on the field while he can barely see as a decoy. And he still breaks, all sorts of records. The 3 touchdowns is the one that, rushing touchdowns, is the one that still stands. But 157 rushing yards on 30 carries against the defensive front that everyone and their mother said there was no way the Broncos could run on.
Yeah. Go back and watch that Super Bowl. It's
Glorious.
the first thing they talk about.
Glorious.
When
It's
the
just
Broncos offense gets on
extraordinary.
the field
Oh.
is the size of their offensive
Yes,
line
yes.
against Gilbert Brown
Yeah.
and the defensive
Oh, and
line.
Gilbert Brown's on the sideline sucking air by the time TD's done with him. So that's an all-timer. That has to
I think
be.
underrated performance, Denver's running backs in the revenge game against Jacksonville to start that playoff
Yeah.
run because
Yeah.
they had just what
Yep.
had happened in Denver the year before with
Yep.
the Jags and Brunell and McCardle and Means and those guys.
Yeah.
And then the next year they come back and then they get that punt block and they go and he blocks the punt and it sticks in his arm
Mm-hmm.
and he just runs into the end zone
Yeah.
and you're like, oh
Not
my
again.
God, this is happening again.
Right.
This is good. What is with the Jags in Denver? And then they literally run over them
Yeah.
where Terrell Davis has 100 yards rushing.
He had what 180?
188.
Yeah.
And then Derek LaVille comes in
Yeah,
and has 100
yeah,
yards
yeah.
rushing.
Yeah.
And then they took him out because he had a couple of
Yeah,
touchdowns.
right.
And then Von Hebron comes in and has like 80 yards of his
Amazing.
own
Oh my God.
on like 7 carries or whatever.
incredible.
And they literally ran the Jags out of Denver and out of relevance for the next 15 years.
It
Yeah,
actually
no
goes
kidding.
to it's really true.
20.
It actually goes to a something I was saying today about the Broncos, new scheme and how if the offensive line is working right in that scheme, it doesn't matter who you put back there. And obviously, you talk about that game, but like they were just mowing them down.
Yeah.
And so it was just like, put anyone back there. They're going to run free.
Well, literally, they take TD out because they're like, well, this is done. And then Derek LaVille, they're like, well, we're going to take Derek LaVille out now because he has a couple touchdowns and 130 yards rushing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then Von Hebron's like, all right, my turn. And like, what? Von Hebron?
Yeah.
Yeah, insane. He also his highest. That's the second highest most rushing yards in playoff career history. The other one's game 1 against Miami the next year.
The 31-3 at home.
Lights him up, 199 yards. In that.
Get him the one more yard. What are we doing here?
TD in the playoffs is.
TD in the playoffs, and that's
TD in the playoffs is why he's in the Hall of Fame.
Probably the best playoff running back of all time.
Yeah.
One of the greatest playoff performances. And
there was no better.
Yeah. 100%.
One of the
Barry
greatest
Sanders
playoff
wishes.
performances.
He does wish.
The Lions have been in the playoffs.
For real.
And then Smith wishes too.
Vaughn Super Bowl 50s way up there.
Okay, and so that's what I was going to go to next is Vaughn. And Vaughn, you can almost just go with the whole playoffs as his performance, right?
Yeah.
Like they go through
Similar to Terrell.
Roethlisberger, Brady, and Cam Newton. By the way,
MVP
the
Cam Newton.
MVP, I believe unanimous MVP that year, Cam Newton.
Jokic was robbed.
And Vaughn was just on a tear that whole playoffs. And it's so cool because all these people that we're talking about, Kadri we haven't quite seen it yet from, but like there's certain people that have an extra level they can go to in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Jamal is absolutely one of them. Of course, Jokic. TD obviously turned it up a notch in the playoffs.
Elway for sure.
And Vaughn, though we sadly didn't get to see that much of it. Obviously, he's injured during the 2013 run. They have the 2015 run and then never make the playoffs again with Vaughn. But, like, we saw it. Like, he went to the next level.
Yeah.
And obviously, it culminates with Super Bowl 50, 2 strip sacks in the game. And he would, like, it was unreal watching that defense led by him, the way they were disrupting 2 Hall of Fame quarterbacks and a MVP that season in Cam Newton throughout that entire run. And Vaughn was just unstoppable, straight up unstoppable.
Yeah. Well, in the AFC Championship's way up there. You could talk about Vaughn that year. You could talk about DeMarcus Ware.
Oh my God.
Obviously, the whole team performance is above all else, so you almost can't talk about an individual's, but that's like, if I'm down and I need like 30 plays to go to, that's what I go to.
And I miss that so much. Like
Rewatching the AFC
watching a game
Championship.
with Von Miller on the field when it gets down to the point where like the other team is in desperation mode. You know they have to throw a pass, and you're like, it's Von Miller time, baby.
Yeah.
Yep.
There's a sack. I know there's a sack coming, and there always would be.
I want to give a special shout out to Steve Atwater in Super Bowl 32 because I've always said that if he doesn't drop that interception, he has just as good a case as for Super Bowl MVP as TD did.
Yep.
Because
Insane.
he was
Wrecking
a
ball.
menace
Yeah.
in that game. A one-man menace in a defensive backfield that wasn't very good.
Against
and-
a potent passing offense
and
that
like-
needed every play from Steve.
Like, it started with him trying to kill Antonio Freeman on the opening touchdown, and Freeman does a great job of holding on, and then it just ramped up. Like, the violence ramped up from there, from Atwater, because he was... I mean, it got to the point where at the end of the game, he knocks out himself, he knocks out Randy
Braxton,
Hilliard,
right?
and Robert
Tyrone
Brooks.
Braxton.
all 3 of them in one play go down on that... I think it was the 3rd down before the 4th down play that ended the game, and like he has a forced fumble and he had I think he had another sack. Like, he was an absolute holy terror, and that was the one thing like I didn't remember watching it as a kid, but when I went back and watched it live, I was like, holy crap, dude!
You talk about
Steve Atwater wrecked this game.
Yeah, you talk about making your presence felt.
Yeah.
Especially against a passing offense like that, where like you need them to feel
Against the back-to-back MVP in Brett Favre, mind you.
It's just kind of sad. It probably would have been funny like 10 years ago, but now it's sad. Steve told me like he knocked himself out. It's like there's one play I think after that. That was third down. There was a fourth down. He's like, I didn't even know. Like when we won the Super Bowl, I didn't even react because I didn't even know like what time it was, like where we were in the game. I just saw everyone start jumping around, and I was like, we won.
That's so scary, though.
That's what I'm saying. Like it's.
Well, and you go back and it's like
scary.
Very classic, like violent level of football, and that's what he did. I mean, that's who he was. That's why he had shoulder problems at the end of his career. It's because he used it.
He used those shoulders.
Yeah,
he was a truck of a safety, and in that game, I don't think it ever got better for Steve Atwater than in that game in particular.
It's hilarious when you see Steve stand next to like Justin Simmons. You're like, those guys play the same position. Like
crazy, man.
Like Steve, I always say I legitimately think if Steve Atwater was a product in today's football, he would be an edge rusher. Like that's how big he was playing safety.
It's wild.
I mean, he is Hassan Reddick size.
Yes.
Who is an edge rusher in the modern NFL.
Anyway, go back and watch that game. And
Yeah. The only other one we haven't mentioned is Elway's Super Bowl 33, his final game, 336 passing yards, the long bond to Ron Smith, which is the one touchdown he had, does throw a pick, 18-29. They're just such elite performances we've got here with the Broncos, but that certainly belongs up there.
And Peyton put up 400 against the Patriots, which is dope, in the 2013 AFC Championship game, which would probably be remembered a lot more if it weren't for what happened a couple weeks later.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Champ against the Patriots too, with the
The 99-yard almost pick six.
Yeah.
I was there for
It
that.
was great in that game though. Like we
Yeah,
talk
yeah,
about that play,
Yeah, right.
But that was the year that it was, 2/3 of the earth is covered by water and the other third is covered by Champ Bailey.
Absolutely. Oh, well, I mean, they make a run to the AFC Championship. It's the only playoff. It's the first playoff game Brady Belichick lose together.
Right. It was
it's a big deal.
It was the first popping of their bubble.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
They never
forgot about
recovered.
that.
A lot of these for the Broncos came against the Patriots, which is kind of cool. Within the last 20 years,
the greatest.
25.
Which is why when people are like, everyone calls me like a Tom Brady hater or something. I'm like, I don't hate Tom Brady. The Broncos own Tom Brady.
You're like, what's the yeah, who cares?
It's like today on the Avs show, we had people who were like, "Oh, you guys sound nervous about Jordan Binnington. Why?"
Yeah.
They've
that
earned
was,
that
that was
guy.
my point online. Like, why would the Avalanche feel compelled to take out Jordan Binnington? They've beat him so many times. Like, what?
That's the guy they swept last year.
Yeah,
Yeah,
what are we
exactly.
talking about? They at that point they had won 7 out of 8 attempts against the Blues in the playoffs. They're like, we got to get rid of this
Yeah,
Binnington.
well, he has a losing record in his career against them.
All right. We finished with the Avs. And I guess quickly a shout out to a couple Rockies ones. Obviously, the least
Let's go Rockies
depth
ones.
of any of these. Kyle Freeland against the Cubs
Yes.
was
End of list.
epic. It was
Epic.
so epic.
Yeah, baseball's kind of harder, right? Like, it's more like,
Well, they just
Kaz's NLDS 07.
Too many-
Matt Holliday's NLCS 07.
too many. I mean, like Jeff Francis in Game 1
Yes.
against the
Yes.
Phillies.
Yes.
Where he
Yep.
strikes out the side in the first inning,
Yeah.
and you're like, and like Jeff Francis, not a strikeout guy.
No.
And that includes Jimmy
8
Rollins
Ks.
and Ryan
Yeah.
Howard.
8 Ks that day, and I mean,
Jason
Ryan.
Lee.
I swear, Ryan Howard looked like he just like swung and missed every pitch Francis threw at him. That
Yeah, well, he kept throwing him off speed stuff. And
so
he,
great,
was
man.
he was a year ahead of it.
So
It was so
great.
funny.
Like, Howard had like 50 homers and just like
Yeah.
couldn't get within a foot of what Francis
he
was
just could
throwing
not handle
him.
that
Oh,
changeup.
God,
He was,
that was so great.
He was off it.
Matt Holliday was awesome throughout the entire NLCS against
he
the
was.
Yeah.
D-backs.
Yeah.
But Game 4, like to close
Yeah,
it out,
big time,
he has
too.
a bomb and I think a double on top of that, maybe
Yep.
something else.
3 ribbies that day for sure.
Yep.
That was more like a body of work
Yes.
than like a game.
Totally. He
That's the
deserved
thing,
MVP.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think if there's any other Rockies ones we're missing.
There's like
Not
a
a lot
nice
to pull from.
Kaz Game 3 in the NLDS with a triple and one of only 2 RBIs on the game. You know, it's pretty like
Yeah.
It's more like the Rockies' success was in the playoffs was more about moments.
Yes.
yeah,
You
big
know,
time.
like Jamie Carroll sack fly, stuff like that.
Oh, right.
Like,
100%.
Small ball stuff.
Tony
A lot of
Walters
hitters
with
were-
the game
Yeah,
winning single in Chicago. Like
Yeah.
it's
But that's
more those.
he was probably like
moments
1
than-
for 5 or something in that game, or
He
1
was
for
their
6.
he was
course.
not even that.
Oh, because he came in.
He was their last bench player. Yeah.
Okay.
And you know,
Yeah,
you're
The
not a-
last guy, and before
I
they
was
had
gonna
to
say
start
no
going.
one was getting
Because
hits
that's
in
like
that game.
0-0 going into the 10th. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the one guy
That's
not
absurd.
on the list of Rockies' great
I mean,
performances,
even the guys who
Nolan
played
Arenado.
in relief.
He actually
Arenado.
did.
Houston Street, the
He actually
anti-hero.
did have a home run in the game in Arizona where they were down big because John Gray got shelled to the high heavens. But they came all the way back, and Nolan did have a bomb in there.
You're right.
Yeah,
Okay,
and then
fine.
you give up a triple to our Archie
To the
Bradley,
pitcher, yeah.
the reliever.
Archie
Yeah.
Bridge, yeah.
All right, let's finish with some
Hold
Avs
on,
ones.
we have one Rapids one in the comments here.
Okay.
You can read it.
Well, I mean, lots of big Connor Casey,
Dre, you want to talk us through this? Never forget the Mac Kenji destroying his ACL to score the goal that won the MLS Cup for the Rapids in 2010. I actually remember that game, but I didn't
Omar
know he
Cummings?
destroyed his
No,
ACL.
I knew
Me
that,
either.
but I don't remember the goal.
Yeah, I don't remember the goal either. I remember a lot of Omar Cummings doing magical stuff down the wing and
Connor Casey.
Connor Casey bowling goals in,
Yeah,
just like intimidating the ball to go into the goal.
Man, as a new Pidsman, I need to know this. I don't know all these things. I need to be filled in so that I can be...
Well, we'll have plenty of TDSP Rapids.
I'd like to hear the full history right now, if you don't mind.
well,
Did I put you guys on the spot? Sorry.
we're focusing more on Big Four right now, actually.
Yeah, can we count 62-36 as a playoff game?
Yeah, exactly.
Chris Brown.
No,
Okay.
you can't.
Let's finish with the Avs. There's actually a lot to pull from here.
What's
I
the
think.
greatest Buffs playoff moment? Ishmael Rucker not getting caught the flag on the punt?
Bro,
All right, Avs, let's go.
why you got to come at me like that?
I don't know.
Remember when Ryan said he had to be off at 5?
I know.
I'm supposed to meet with Spencer, but I don't see him.
Running
the Avs
late.
ones I actually kind of struggled with because, Patrick Waugh, Game 6, 2001 in New Jersey. The Avs didn't play well that game. They did not deserve to win that game. Patrick Waugh just refused. He just outplayed Marty Brodeur and stole the Stanley Cup, basically.
Yeah.
And then the next game, you have a 2-goal game from Alex Tanguay.
Yep.
Yeah.
And in
Including the game winner.
game
Game
7
7.
lore, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
You have a multi-goal game in a game 7 that your team wins, like you're a hero for the rest of your life.
I can close my eyes and I can see that second goal, the big rebound that was given up. He's coming up the
Yeah,
wing.
one of my favorite hockey plays of all time because it's a set play where they win the face-off and Sakic just takes off up the wall and Adam Foote with the perfect, Adam Foote you think of as like the defensive defenseman, not a guy that contributes a lot of offense.
Not exactly killing the car with his passing.
and it was an absolute perfect up and out off the glass onto Sakic's stick because Colin White sucked and he tried to pinch and hold it in at the blue line. It gets behind him. That's how it creates the 2-on-1. And Sakic receives it, and it's the perfect pass off the pads. Like, New Jersey could not... The only difference that they could have done is Colin White could have tried to actually...
Play defense.
Yeah, tried to actually not hold that in. But it was such a perfect play from Foote. You don't see guys go high off the glass on a set play like that. And, it's just... It's like one of those, small hockey things that you notice. And it's absolutely...
Perfection.
It could not have been executed better.
Yeah.
On any level from any guy involved.
And how sick is that? In the biggest play of the biggest game,
Yeah.
the biggest moment, they executed that perfectly.
Yeah.
That's what you dream about.
Yeah, in a 1-1 game.
Yeah, man.
On a defensive zone face-off.
Pretty
And
cool.
and 6 seconds later, the puck is in the net at the other end. That's what an engine that team was. They were so good and so dangerous. They could do anything they wanted. And
You know
I
what
don't
else
know,
that
just-
team did, just quickly? They lost some games.
we actually talked about it today. You know what they did is they had a 3-1 series lead in the second round
Against the
the
Blues.
the LA
Oh, the
Kings.
Kings.
And they got shut out in back-to-back games
Yikes.
in games 5 and 6. That team shut out in back-to-back games by Felix Pavin, and
I remember this.
they win game 7. Peter Forsberg goes to dinner, ruptures his spleen, and misses the rest of the postseason.
Crazy.
Good
And they
thing
still
Twitter
won.
wasn't around then, huh?
Yeah.
Yikes.
Oh my God, the meltdown.
Yeah, the meltdown.
Well, and then they
played
played
the
the
Blues
Blues
night
in the
on
conference
Twitter
finals.
with
Yeah, the Blues is what I had, because I had tickets to, I think It was game 5. I don't know. I have to do the math. Anyway, clearly a great memory for me. But I just remember watching Joe Sakic score one of his iconic goals. I was up in the corner. Joe Sakic, a little wrister from the little dot there.
Tell you what, that wrister made a lot of moments.
Yeah,
in his career.
Wrister from the dot that covers
Yeah.
70% of his goals.
We've also got
crazy.
63 saves from Y and triple overtime against Florida.
that's
Right?
Game 4.
An absurd number.
Oh, yeah, you think?
Not really. It's triple overtime.
Fair
I guess
enough.
that's true.
But
the fact that it's
but how many in
Stanley Cup
regulation?
final game, right?
Think about that 5 overtime game a couple of years ago where Jonas Korpisalo's first ever playoff game and he makes 85 saves.
Wasn't there was a Colorado high school game this year that went to an absurd amount of overtime. I think it was the state championship. It was like Fort Collins versus someone else. Fort Collins ended up losing, but their goalie made like 79 saves or something.
I'd put it as an honorable mention Hamburglar. And that game,
What about Craig Anderson?
that game he's still in Nashville.
Yeah,
Craig
Andy in
Anderson's way up there.
Game 3 against San Jose in 2010.
Was that a 50 save shutout?
It was.
Yeah.
I think it was actually 51.
Yeah, there's a 1 in there for sure.
And
Forsberg,
then
6 points.
the
is another one.
funniest thing is that the best part of that was the on ice interview afterward,
Which is what?
where Kyle Keefe tries to talk to him, and the crowd won't let him. They're just chanting Andy, and like Craig Anderson like knows, and so he's just like standing there, and he's got like the slyest grin on his face, like he knows he just shut down. The best team in hockey that year was the Sharks. That Sharks team ruled.
Yeah.
And like he just locked them down. And because the Avs won that, they got outshot like 51-18, and they win 1-0
Right, on a fluky goal.
on an own goal in overtime. Yeah,
Unbelievable.
That's unreal.
That one really sticks out to me.
that was actually the first game. That was the first Avs game that I had attended after I moved back. To
Oh,
Denver.
that's sick. That is so sick.
In the
crazy.
comments, we have Travis asking, remember when
Is it a
Patrick
Rapids
Waugh
comment? I'm just
in
kidding.
Game 3 after he declared no more rats?
Yeah, so Patrick Waugh, obviously in the 96 Cup Finals, the Panthers were throwing rats onto the ice after they scored every goal. And
Actual rats?
No,
plastic rats.
Okay.
rubber rats.
But
I mean, you never know in hockey.
the
A lot of-
whole thing got
But they
started
are
with a real
catfish
rat.
and real.
Okay.
When
Octopi.
future Blues legend Scott Bellenby hit a rat with his stick, and in the hallway.
Oh my god.
Hockey's the
and
greatest, man.
it turned into a whole that was when their run started, and
Oh.
so that's why the rats became a huge part, like an iconic part of their run. And Patrick Waugh hated it so much he gave up a goal in Game 3, and he retreated. There's a famous picture of the rats just all around, and he's literally inside the net as they come down. And after the game, he said no more rats, and he didn't give up a goal after that.
Oh my god, that is so fucking badass.
Patrick Waugh is the human embodiment of big dick energy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, sure.
Unfortunately,
What a great way to put
It,
it.
BDE
it does
swings
not
in
turn
both
off.
directions.
It does not turn off.
It's a double-edged BD.
It applies in all facets of life, and it is not always a good thing. But in the world of sports, in a singular position such as goaltender,
If the pendulum
It's
of
why
the
he's the
pendulous
best
balls
ever.
are swinging in your direction, great.
I can't believe I didn't know that story.
yeah.
You make me rethink
No
that
more
whole
rats.
him pushing
That's
the
so epic.
glass
Yes.
with the other
Yes.
coach.
That's the BDE.
That's the BD back
need
in
it.
for him and the Anaheim coach, right?
Bruce Boudreau. Yeah.
We need a no more rats moment.
They need a Patrick Waugh type of player.
Yeah,
So
I know.
Who doesn't?
I would also say, again, from the 96 series against Florida, Peter Forsberg's first period hat trick in Game 2.
Yeah. And then
Pretty-
as
We almost had one last night.
Pretty good way to get off to a start in the game. In the
does he
Stanley
have
Cup
6 points in that one?
Finals.
And then that's another Forsberg game.
No. That was a regular season game.
Oh.
We almost had a first period hat trick last night. By the way, shout out to Mile High Prophet who was here last night. Really put the Prophet in Mile High Prophet. Before the game, he told me Nathan McKinnon's getting a hat trick tonight. So
Ooh.
Wow.
I called
really?
on air that the Avs were going to score first, and it was going to be Nathan McKinnon, and they were going to win the first period.
let's go.
And so when all those
certainly
things
did that.
happened, I was rolling.
And what's messed up about all this is
it should have been.
we should have been talking today about. Okay,
Back to
Kadri
back.
was amazing, obviously,
Yeah,
and all the stuff we
back-to-back
talked about.
hat-tricks, yeah.
But
games
then
4 and
McKinnon
5. Yeah.
and that goal.
Is
Yep.
that more impressive than the rookie game 3 against Minnesota?
Game 2.
Game 2?
Yeah.
You think yesterday's performance is better?
Yeah.
That goal is truly one of the best
Oh my
individual moments I've ever seen in a hockey game.
Dude, that was the dopest goal I've ever seen. All things considered, that that toe drag, was the fastest thing I've ever like. I've obviously seen. I've seen dirty dangles, bro. Not like that, man. That was so fast, and then the flip. I was just like,
Everything he did
like
was-
it.
Yeah,
It
that
was
all
in
of
the
it-
back of the net so quickly that like he was skating around and was almost back to the Avalanche bench by the time my brain had caught up with what had just happened. And I looked around, everyone else was cheering. I was like, ah! Like I couldn't process it. It was too goddamn fast.
Yeah, it was madness.
Yeah. The elevation was the part
Jesus.
that how quickly he got that thing
To the
up and-
roof.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
And
it sucks it got wasted.
it really does suck. But now he just gets to go do it again tomorrow. I want to finish this talking about the Avs. We'll go around. We're going to finish with AJ.
Kill McCarr's first game.
Yeah. Oh, that's a moment.
And well, I mean that game,
Yeah.
it wasn't like one guy. It was like the team was like, yeah, we're gonna show Calgary what's up.
Yep. Okay, we're going around. Eric, your concern level about the Avs, 1 to 10.
0.
Andre.
Yeah, I said in the negative on bets.
Yep, I'm at 0. Where are you?
I'm at like a 2.
All right, that's good. We can wrap up there. I actually do have to go
I
now.
like strongly believe that this will either be the thing that brings out the best in them, and we'll see it tomorrow, or it's the thing that breaks them and defines the era. I don't think there's any in between. Just my personal opinion, I don't think that that's going to be that second one, but it happens.
Yeah.
Listening to them last night, man, it just inspired a lot of confidence in me.
Didn't even bother.
Yeah.
I skipped it entirely.
Oh, you didn't hear.
I knew what was coming. I didn't need to know it.
They were-
I already knew that they were already in St. Louis.
They were unfazed, it felt to me.
That they were already in St. Louis, and I feel like they are gonna wander into Enterprise Center tomorrow, dick first, and just drop the hammer.
Oh,
Hell yeah.
Like,
Holy smokes.
It's my. I'm of the opinion that they are,
Wait,
like,
is it-
they are going to like bring the building with them when they clinch the series tomorrow.
We don't want that building.
And well, right, but it's going to be something they can wipe their ass with in the next
Oh wow,
round.
that sounds wildly uncomfortable. But all the same, the
Like,
gesture.
I'm of the opinion that they're about to like end that franchise.
Let's go.
Because I think the anger is going to be the thing that they take from it. But you have to recognize that the other thing is possible.
Totally.
It's the world of sport for a reason.
And I believe that is a great place to finish. May you all, man or woman, walk dick first in wherever you
This
go
is why we
And drop the
porn bots
hammer.
all in our
Drop the
chat.
hammer.
On YouTube, we have so many little porn bots.
BD
Drop the
flipping
hammer.
back and
No.
forth.
The chat would
See,
drop
if you click that link tomorrow night after the game, it'll be a highlight of tomorrow night's
Yeah,
game.
exactly.
Let's go. All right.
Exactly.
See you guys later.